Welcome to another episode of GeekOutdoors.com. So Hotel Del Luna is a fantasy K-drama that was released back in 2019, but now it's available here on Netflix in 2021. And so the general story here is that we have this very unique hotel that caters to a very special group of people, and this special group of people are dead or are ghosts. And so it's definitely not a place for the living, with some few exceptions. And so the actual owner and operator of this hotel is this person named Jang Man-woo, and she's somebody who's actually 1,000 years old, and the people that she has working in the hotel are sometimes hundreds of years old and who also happens to be ghosts, except for one person, and that is Goo Chan-sung, who happens to be a human who becomes a hotel manager of Hotel Del Luna. And within this whole mix, we have this whole fantasy element because these characters are 1,000 years old, 100 years old. There's definitely a lot of backstory to them. And at the same time, there's many other fantasy elements here as well, including the Grim Reaper. And so that's kind of like the overall general story of Hotel Del Luna. Now, getting to the things that I absolutely enjoyed about this show is the overall story. Now, I myself, I do really like these sci-fi, fantasy type of shows. And in this case, Hotel Del Luna does it really well because you have this whole ghost, dead people element along with this whole historical element behind each one of the characters. And even though Jang Man-woo, she is like the main central character and she's lived the longest, her other characters there, the hotel workers, they also have their own stories, and I found that the most interesting parts, just having this backstory. And within these 16 episodes, which are about an hour apiece, you learn a little bit more about each one of these characters episode through episode, and then you really learn to appreciate the story and the characters and this whole world that they're building. And so that's probably the best thing about it, is just this entire story of these characters, the backstory, and also the many other fantasy elements that surround that. And so the second thing that I really thoroughly enjoyed about this series are the characters. So obviously Jang Man-woo and Goo Chan-sung, they are the main characters, with Jang Man-woo having a lot more history and depth versus Goo Chan-sung. At least for me, the ones that I enjoyed the most are the people who work at the hotel. And so in this case, we really have three main characters that work at the hotel. We have the bartender, we have the head hotel concierge, and we also have a bellboy, or the person who actually takes care of the customers coming into a hotel. And I found them to be the most interesting. Their stories, even though they didn't take up as much length as Jang Man-woo, I found them a lot more interesting. And at the same time, when it came to the emotional parts of the story, these characters, surprisingly, actually had the most emotional depth versus the main character Jang Man-woo, and especially versus Goo Chan-sung. But overall, I really did enjoy these main characters, but there's also many other characters as well. There's the Grim Reaper, there's deities, multiple deities, and also there's some other characters related to Jang Man-woo back in historical period. And so the characters really overall, I think they're really good, and in some cases great, and it really kept me invested in the story overall through each episode. And then another thing that I did appreciate about this series is the overall production quality. Now, this series was actually done by Studio Dragon, and if you're the type of person who watches a lot of K-drama, you know that they're one of the top studios out there, and everything on this whole series is really top-notch. Everything from the production designs, the costume designs, the overall look and cinematography, the music, it's really a great visual and audio presentation, and I absolutely enjoyed watching every single episode. And for somebody like myself who actually creates videos, I love watching movies, I also really enjoy the technical elements of it, and definitely Hotel Del Luna did not disappoint at all. So if you are that type of person who enjoys those aspects of it, then you'll definitely be pleased with what Hotel Del Luna offers. And then the final thing that Hotel Del Luna did really well is the overall world building. And so you have this modern world with Hotel Del Luna, with the ghosts, the living, and everything else in between. But you also have the past history, back in the historical time. And I couldn't remember if it's in the Joseon period, but there's definitely historical elements there. And each one of the characters, they're in different timelines. And in a lot of ways, you're kind of like watching two different movies, or two different series, one in the present and then one in multiple past. And within this world, we also have other beings, like these deities, who is, played magnificently by this one woman who plays multiple different gods. And we also have the Grim Reaper and other characters that you'll see along the series, because in some of the episodes, it's actually focused on one specific type of ghost or side character, and they also have their story as well. And so that entire world, I think, was really interesting, and it really helped to flesh out the characters themselves and made each episode more interesting. For serious YouTubers, check out TubeBuddy, the premier tool news at geekoutdoors.com. Get more done today by checking out the affiliate link in the description area below. Now, getting into the things that I didn't enjoy as much about Hotel Del Luna, even though Jang Man-woo and Gu Chan-sung are the main characters, they didn't really give me as much as the side characters, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. For some reason, the way it was written, specifically with Jang Man-woo, who's played by IU, even though she is supposed to be our main central character, the way in which they wrote her, they just wrote her as somebody who is almost always angry and cold, even when, her relationship with Gu Chan-sung becomes a lot stronger. And it was done for a reason, because if you actually look at her past, what she went through, you can kind of see why she is the way that she is. But it would have been nice if she had a lot more levels to her characters. And secondly, with Gu Chan-sung, there's really not much there besides the fact that he was supposed to be this human hotel manager, and his dad actually made a pact with Jang Man-woo to have Gu Chan-sung become the hotel manager. And at the same time, as you're watching the series, you would think you would learn more about Gu Chan-sung and why there is this deep connection. Even though there is some of that, there's not as much as I would like. And so that's really something that I wished it would have been done a little bit better in this series, specifically because they are the main characters. And then the second thing that I didn't enjoy, and this is something that I've seen in so many K-dramas, is the ending, or endings in this case. And the creators of this show said they left the ending open-ended, but honestly, for me, it just didn't work out. I really didn't know what I was watching. I didn't know if it was part of the storyline or something else. And you'll understand whenever you see it. And it's unfortunate because everything else in the show is done really well. It builds up to it. And then to have an ending like this, well, it kind of like throws away all that work that was done. And not to say that this makes the series bad, it's just that it could have been done a lot better. And just even if it was a predictable ending, at least that's something that we can say, wow, it really felt good for me to spend 16 plus hours and I got an ending that even if it's predictable, it was satisfying. Okay, so at least that is my personal opinion. So those are my thoughts on Hotel Del Luna. This is definitely one of the best series that I've seen here recently, and it definitely got a lot of high ratings whenever it was released, and it's still a fan favorite to this day, and I could definitely see why. So if you actually had any thoughts on this or any other series that you've seen that you've enjoyed, be sure to leave that in the comments area below. And if you did want to see more of my Korean shows or movie reviews, I do have an entire playlist. I'll leave that in the description area below. So as always, if you did get value out of these videos, be sure to share, like, and subscribe. And if you're a creative geek like me and you want to get exclusive access to more content that I don't put out here publicly on my YouTube channel, then join my Gold Content Creators Group, where you're going to get content like this and more for all the creative geeks out there. And the best part is, all of this is free. Simply head over to the link below, check out my page, and sign up for my Gold Content Creators Group.